This is the all-new Community Connection. I'm your host, Jade Harrell, keeping you connected to our community. There's been much negative news recently about the VA and the lack of care being given to veterans returning from service. Every month, thousands of former service members re-enter civilian life, and many face real challenges when trying to enter the workforce. The struggle of post-9/11 veterans is confirmed by an unemployment rate that is consistently higher than the national average. Well, it's time to talk about the programs that are working to help military vets transition from combat boots to business suits. I am joined today by Mark Testoni, President and Chief Executive of SAP National Security Services. SAP NS2 is also the President and founder of NS2 Serves, a nonprofit organization that gives back to the community it serves by training and preparing veterans to enter the workforce. The unique 3-month NS2 Serves training program gives vets nationwide the necessary skills and employment placement assistance needed to begin a high-tech career. Mark, I'm glad you could join us today to really talk about how we can make a difference here for our vets.
Jay, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for doing this. Tell me why you decided to found NS2 Serves.
Well, Jade, it's interesting. I'm a military veteran myself, actually.
Okay. What branch?
20 years in the Air Force.
All right.
Retired a few more, or left my military services a few more years ago than I would care to admit. But, we've been in, since post 9/11, we've been in really for all 14 years, almost this week. It will be the anniversary of 9/11. We've been in conflict, and we've put a tremendous strain and stress on our military, and when we started SAP National Security Services, which is an independent proxy company of SAP, we were looking for something to do to give back, and we explored a few things, and we just felt like training of veterans, specifically the hard-to-employ veterans, as I like to say, not all veterans are created equal. Mm-hmm. Some come out of the military with great skills that are very easily translatable into the private sector. Others have advanced degrees. A lot of them, there's a good chunk that don't have problems, but a lot of those young men and women that enlisted right out of high school and went and were deployed multiple times overseas, maybe picked up a family along the way, but didn't get those translatable skills or didn't get that college degree are the ones that we target. Mm-hmm. And so we think it's a good targeting spot, and we think we're making a difference to people.
Absolutely. Well, with the unemployment rate for veterans being that much higher than the national average, the need is tremendous there.
It is. And I believe, I happened to be at a dinner the other night with a former executive, a former senior officer in the military, and he told me that, for the foreseeable future, there are thousands a month coming out, and so the demand will continue to exist. And the unemployment rate has gotten better than it was, but again, there are certain harder to employ skill sets. If you don't have a degree, obviously, many of us know how it is to approach the market. Plus, if you perhaps were a rifleman in the Marine Corps or an infantryman in the Army, you may not have all those things that some employer will be willing to take a chance on.
Some of those, what they call soft skills in some cases.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of our military, though, is what makes this such a good group to train, and, we take them through, and thank you for describing the program, is our military members come out with a great sense of teamwork. Mm-hmm. They've obviously matured quite a bit because they've been thrust into, pretty significant situations at a young age. They know how to focus on mission. They know how to work effectively inside organizations. They know how to build a team. So we take all those great skills, and then what we do for 12 weeks is we wrap a very needed high-tech skill around that. We bring them in for that 12 weeks, and they live together, in a dormitory environment. They're studying 12 to 14 hours a day, and at the back end comes a certified SAP consultant that we then work very hard with our partners to employ. And so far, the first 3 classes, we've been able to get them all employed.
All of them?
Yes, ma'am. Everyone's had a job opportunity.
That's terrific. So I was going to ask about success stories, but if everyone has become employed, then that's all a success. But is there one that stands out to you that comes to mind?
Well, there are a couple. We had a lady who we ultimately hired who came to us and came to us and said that everything she had, all of her worldly possessions were in her car, and she was going to come out the back end of this program one way or the other. Mm-hmm. She's now a very successful support analyst for us. We've had a number of homeless folks. We've had a number of members who are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome. We've had 3 or 4 that have had service dogs to deal with that. So I mean, there's a whole variety of experiences, but probably the most exciting thing for me, beyond them hearing them getting their employment, is to watch them when they graduate and they talk briefly about how this has changed their lives. Because we're not just trying to put them in a job; we're trying to help them in a career as a consultant or as a consulting professional, and again in a high-tech area that has a lot of stickiness, and that's what excites us so much about it is the fact that we actually can see the results. Mm-hmm. And the employers are benefiting greatly from these folks, by the way, too.
Oh, please. They get to hire and utilize the wealth of experience and training that has already been in place.
That's correct. Yeah, we take, again, that all those great military, we've all known military members, those that haven't been, and, we admire the military. They get so many good skills and leadership, and as I talked about earlier. And so when you give them this extra technical skill, it makes all the difference in the world. And, and then we also encourage them, if they don't have a degree, to work on the degree, because they ultimately need to get that as well. But this allows them to get into the job force so they can support their families at the same time that they're working in a new job and then potentially pursuing their degree.
Mm-hmm, and help support them in actually obtaining that. Now, I'm familiar with some of the great benefits. My way through college was through an Army ROTC scholarship, and probably would have been commissioned if it weren't for a broken ankle. But I still utilize and am thankful for many of the leadership skills, the skills that I learned physically, technically, strategically. All of those things have played well for me in my professional career ever since. I probably went in like Private Benjamin, but I came out a well-equipped and capable soldier. And it seems like it's unfair, and you would think unlikely with all that is endured, but help us understand, paint the picture for our listeners, why these are challenges for our vets. Why is it that we have hard to employ situations at all?
Well, it's funny, Jay. It's a really good question. Part of the challenge is that when people are in the military for a period of time, it's a culture that's probably a little bit different than the private sector. It's a little bit more structured and disciplined. And then, as we look at our workforce today in the U.S., it's a mobile workforce. So, we might work for one company for a while and then for another. And so when a member comes out, they're not used to the vernacular of the military isn't always the same as the vernacular in the private sector. If they don't have a college degree, they kind of feel like, hey, I've done all this great work, but then my resume is not going anywhere because I don't have a technical skill or a college degree. And it gets them pushed down into less skilled jobs, which often means less money. And it's tough if you're, in your 30s and maybe you have a couple of children. So sometimes they come out with, impacts and disabilities on top of that. And I think that, I've heard employers say that there is some concern about PTSD in hiring vets. So there are so many different situations. There are many, many veterans are hired relatively quickly. The ones that I said earlier have some of these skills, have the degrees. So, it's pockets. It's like anything else. We're trying to focus in an area where we think there's the greatest need. And, just to give you an example, we just started our 4th class. It started on 31st of August. And we selected 22 young men and women. I think it was 17 men and 5 young women. And there were close to 500 applications, so we're only to take 22.
Wow. So, you said 500 applications.
Yeah.
They want this.
One of our class.
Oh, wow. So,
there could be a lot more people. If we could get other companies and others, there's a lot more demand out there.
I'm sure. But you stepped up to meet that need, and how wonderful that you know firsthand exactly what that is. Send out the invitation, one, about the NS2 Serves program, but also how we all can help improve the lives and careers of our service members.
Great. Well, if for more information about the program, you can go to www.ns2serves.org.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And there's really several ways folks can get involved.
NS2 with the number 2. NS number 2 serves.
Number 2 serves.org. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody, and then there's a wealth of information out there about the program. As individuals, we all know veterans, and if they're struggling with employment, or maybe they're looking for something, they're looking for a career in the post 9/11, and you can certainly refer them to that website, and there's contact information there as well, phone numbers and all, where people can ask questions. If you're an employer and you need IT skills, and we're training primarily of folks right now in analytic areas. In the cyber world, if you need skills like that, you can get out. You can reach out to us through the website as well. We'd love to talk to you about potentially employing one of our vets. If you're an individual or a foundation or a company, you want to make a donation to what we do, we'd love to. We'd certainly accept that as well. There's again on the website, there's an ability to do that. Or if you just want more information and want to get involved, and you have some other skill or resource you think you can bring to the table, please reach out to us. We're always open for ideas and help in any way, shape, or form.
I love it. Mark Testoni is the President and Chief Executive of SAP National Security Services and is also the President and founder of NS2 Serves, the nonprofit organization that gives back by training and preparing our veterans to enter the workforce. Very noble and admirable work, Mark, and thank you as well for your service.
Jay, thank you so much for your time this morning and your interest in our program.
I appreciate you, Mark.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, bye. All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions or comments or have something you'd like to include in the community calendar, you can leave a message on our message box at 314-333-8369, 314-333-8369. And for more information about our show or any of our guests, you can visit us online and listen to the podcasts at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. And search Community Connection with Jade Harrell. You all be blessed, do blessed, and take care.